Good evening. I apologize for a few minutes off. We're going to start tonight. We'll be led in prayer by Alderman Joe DeLucia.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good and that your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Alderwoman Philbrick, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we're going to begin with citizen comment general, and I declare that open.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Yes.
I had requested a moment of personal privilege before citizen comment.
I thought it was before the city manager's report.
No, actually, it was before the citizen comment.
Okay.
So may I?
The floor is yours.
All right, so most of you know me. I've been coming here for 15 years. Most of you know that I'm outspoken, critical, and opinionated. But the last couple of weeks have been very difficult for me. They have been so difficult for me to the extent that I have asked of Chief Daley to have an additional officer here this evening. I have received threats. I have had people drive by my house and yell obscenities. So I have a letter here, and it says, I, Joanne Philbrick, a duly elected member of the City Council, City of Norwich, do hereby vacate my seat effective immediately. Now, the caveat is that this is neither dated or signed. This is my immunity idol. This is my wild card. It's my intention, it was my intention when I wrote this, to walk away from this toxic, vigilante, vicious, hate-mongering, lynch mob mentality. Because that's the only way that I can describe it. This is a free country. People have died so that we have freedom of speech. I can understand that you might not agree with me, but there's a way to go about it. My comments at the meeting were totally misconstrued. I support the teachers 150, 200%. My argument or my issue is not with the teachers. My argument and issue is with the educational system. As I said, it's much like healthcare and the VA. They are three mammoth organizations that no longer do the job that they were created to do. So I wanted to share with you a couple of the comments that I received from members of the community. I think it's important that you know how your neighbors react. We're all aware of Mr. Aldi's comments. His words were my vile words, that I'm a disgrace, that I'm reprehensible, that I don't deserve to be sitting up here, that he will do everything in his power to make sure that I don't get reelected. Well, you can all put your minds at ease. I have no intention of running for a reelection. So my first comment that I received on Facebook, and Facebook is a wonderful thing because when people post, you can look at their profiles and find out who they are. So I will not use these people's names. I will use their first name. Jessica, in her little spiel that said, I think it's time to lay off the opioids. What a cruel, insensitive, ignorant comment. I fractured my femur last April, and I have gone it through no fault of my own. I had doctors that were prescribing medications which, when looking on the internet, I find out they're called Cadillacs. It's benzodiazepines and opioids. I should be dead. So Jessica, I have laid off the opioids. I haven't had a pain. I'm in pain every single day of my life, but I have not had a painkiller since August 30th. To the volunteer firemen who at a public safety meeting in front of a group of people said to me, "Joanne, how'd you get through the heroin task force checkpoint?" And I was like, "Excuse me?" He said, "Oh, with your history, how did you get through the heroin checkpoint?" Again, hurtful, insensitive, and in my opinion, ignorant. This is a man whose job it is to go out on a daily basis and save lives, people in automobile wrecks, people with heart attacks, and yet he felt it was necessary to point out that evidently he thinks I'm a heroin addict. The last one came from a man named Mark, who doesn't live in Norwich. He's from Florida, but evidently he has Norwich ties because some of his Facebook friends are from Norwich. And his comments were probably his first comment was, "What do you know? All you ever did was answer a phone." Well, quite frankly, I was a highly decorated and highly trained 911 dispatcher. I was involved in one of the first active shooter scenarios before there was a term for active shooters. And he does a disservice to EMS personnel when he says all they do is answer the phone. All they do is put out fires. All they do is put their lives on the line. Then he called me a stupid bitch. I am not stupid by any stretch of the imagination. Do I make bad decisions sometimes? Absolutely. But I am not stupid. Am I a bitch? I like to think of myself as a strong, independent woman. Lastly, he said, "Why don't you go back where you came from?" Which I would love to do, but my home has lost 2/3 of its value. So I can't go back where I came from because I don't have the money. So I am going to sit here in this seat, which is right smack in the middle of 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans. I have always been an independent thinker. I will continue to vote what I feel is best. I will not be swayed by party lines. If I feel that what they are offering is in the best interest, then I will go there and here. But my goal is to stay here as long as I can. But if the threats and the intimidation tactics continue, and that's what they want. They want to push me out. I've had many people come and say to me, "Don't go," that's what they want. But I have been pushed to a place that is darker than you would want to think about. We as a society are extremely cruel. If their intention, and most of you know who they are, if their intention was to hurt me, congratulations, you succeeded. I was hurt to the core. But you didn't break me. You didn't break me. I'm strong. I will continue to be outspoken, critical, and opinionated. I will laugh when things are funny and happy. I will be compassionate when people bring things to me that are of a nature. I don't know how many of you remember the night that we had the opioid group here and a lady came to the podium, put the urn, this beautiful Chinese urn, on the carpet and said, "I'd like to introduce you to my son." I cried like a baby, not knowing that a month or 2 from then, I myself would be going through the same situation. So twice in the 2 years, this last 2-year term that I have been here, I have stood up in support and defense of 2 people in this community. I can understand that some of you don't like me, but I would ask you with all due respect, to remember that I am trying to do what's I feel is best for the citizens. I have a life-altering injury from which I will never recover. It has weighed heavily on my mind. My mind has not been 100. I haven't been the Joanne that I was before, that one that always had something to say, but now I'm beaten down. So I ask, if you support me, then maybe when you see me out, you could just say, thank you, Joanne. And if you don't have anything nice to say, please don't say anything at all. So thank you. So I'm going to hold this. This is it's going to go in the drawer. And when it gets to the point, if it gets to the point, that paper will come out and I'll be gone. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Kolker.
Good evening. I certainly will be able to beat the passion of that statement, to be sure. Again, it's about the education issue that we have before us.
Excuse me, your name and address, please.
I'm very sorry. Christopher
Please.
Kolker, 25 Parkwood Drive in Norwich. Again, I'm here to address the educational thing that we had last week. Based on that, there's lots of opinions that were heard, obviously, and the majority wanted, of course, full funding. Of course, that's understandable. We heard a lot of people simply say that, they love their kids, they love their community, they want full funding. Unfortunately, the link between saying, well, I want the best for my kids, I want the best for my community, so therefore fund this fully, that link is not there anymore. As I mentioned last week, that's of a bygone era, where the more you fund, the better education you get, the better education you get, therefore the better community you're automatically going to have. That's of a bygone era. Why is that? There's many reasons. We can blame society, technology, and there's a bunch of things we can't change, but one of the things that that I'd like to address just for a moment is mission creep. Mission creep is this: the schools are asked to do more and more and more. You may think that's right, you may think that's wrong. Instead of doing a narrowly defined, we need to educate and get children ready for the next step, whether that's college or technical schools, trade schools, or the like, they're asked to do so much more. Medical, psychiatry, sports, art, music, equality, gender-based issues. All of these are laudable goals. There's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. But the problem is, the more that you're asked to do, the more you get away from your primary goal, the less good you're going to be at each goal. If you have one thing to do, you're probably going to be an expert at it. If you have 25 things to do, probably not so much. And so the more that you're asked to do, the more you try and spread resources around, the more you try and build a bureaucracy to try and get this done. So what ends up happening is that you build this bureaucracy up. And when you build this bureaucracy up, you need more money. You need more money and you build this bureaucracy up, but you still don't get your goals. There's too many goals, so you don't achieve those goals. So you're in the position where you have too many goals, you don't achieve those goals, you ask for more money, you build a bureaucracy, but nothing changes. We're not succeeding. That's where we're at. And so I ask, as we move forward on this, we always keep that in mind. And we put a stop to this, and we ask the Board of Education to more narrowly define our goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brian Kobolars.
Good evening, Brian Kobelar, 16 Hobart Avenue. This goes back to the last meeting when you allowed, or when you had the resolution for the CMEC representative. I wish to express my profound disappointment with the comments that were made by some of the members seated before me at that meeting. The meeting to vote on the CMEC rep, Mr. DeLucia and Ms. Burnham ended up putting forward suggestions for process improvement when it came to the appointments committee. The response that they got from other members of the council was inappropriate and disrespectful, in my opinion. The meeting took a very, very bad turn for the worse. Some of the quotes from that: Mr. Nystrom said in this case the gentleman never put the application in. He said further that he personally encouraged him to apply 2 weeks before the interview, and that I was given notice at the time of the interviews when they would take place. He also continued that he was disappointed that this gentleman did not get his application in. Other candidates had played by the rules. Played by the rules? You know what? The application was submitted. It was in the mayor's office. It was with every member of that appointment committee. Stacy, I spoke with you for about an hour. You ended up saying, starting off the conversation, that I had put the committee in a little bit of a pickle because they had already scheduled the other candidate to be interviewed, and what would they do then? If you go back through the history of this mayor's term, he has been quoted in the paper saying all applications would end up being honored. I also then later on spoke with the mayor's office, and I was told that I would be interviewed, but I would not be considered. Now, Joanne, you said during the last meeting, and people wonder why people don't want to participate in local government. If you're told by the mayor's office that you will be interviewed but not considered, I would say that's a pretty good reason to want to stay away. And other disparagements that have been going on related to that applicant. I ended up later that day withdrawing my application, sending in an email to the mayor's office. You were on that too, Joanne. Yet you pretended during that meeting as though no application had ever been submitted. Lying to the public, lying to your fellow council people is not the proper way to do process improvement and make the city a better place to be.
Thank you,
Plenty
sir.
more. Take time.
Mr. Marvin Cerruto.
Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. On Friday, I went to the opera and I ran into a very, very good friend of mine, Mark Koulos. Now, we both make it a point at our high school reunions to sit together, and we always engage in very good debate. He is a self-proclaimed Rooseveltian Democrat, and I am a self-proclaimed Reagan-esque Republican, and we have a great time together. So he was expecting a response to his calculations. His calculations, using his assumptions at $109,500,000 for the school budget, are correct. However, I had 3 children in daycare at one time. My bill was $350 per, so it was $1,050. So using my calculations, with the 6,338 students, we end up with $22,183,000. I like those numbers a lot better. So I did a little more research, and in the nation it can be as high as 3 times that, which would be 66 million. So what's my point? I'm remembering a gentleman, Senator Doc Myers. He was a doctor, state of Florida, and he was kind of like my mentor. He passed last year. He used to say, don't take the fun and the fundamental out of funding. And that's the point I'm trying to make tonight. I think maybe we're not putting enough of that into it. If I could add my own little addition there. I notice we don't have a lot of gratefulness and thankfulness here. $80 million is something to be very grateful for. This city of Norwich, and I've been to a lot of other cities, is supporting an $80 million school budget. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Citizen comment is open. Those are the only 3 that signed up ahead of time. Anyone would like to please join us? Open topic. Yes, please. Mr. Kraft.
Good evening, David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. I didn't pair my written comments with my agenda, and therefore I have to talk from memory about what I was going to speak on. I had 3 points for the council's deliberation. The first one was Friday morning on WICH. The early morning host mentioned a city that had initiated registration fees on electric cars because electric cars were not paying the highway revenue that is used to maintain the highways. The registration fee for this one state, which is the only thing that he addressed, I forgot which one it was $1,000. The next item had to do with talk radio on last night's broadcast when 2 different hosts addressed Baltimore, which has a brand new mayor since the last mayor was run out on a corruption charge, being hit with a ransomware attack. Baltimore did not pay the ransom that was due on Friday. They were the only city that was mentioned among the numerous cities that had been hit with ransomware threats and had paid the ransom. Later on, the WBAL radio station mentioned that Baltimore had recovered some of their digital infrastructure, which was back in operation. My question is, what does Norwich have to protect the digital infrastructure for the city? And the third item was on the radio this morning, there was a mention about the city hiring appointing a downtown upgrade specialist, or whatever you want to call it, which seems to me to track the real estate pattern. That means there's 2 facilities now being paid. So my question is, why not get rid of 2/3 of these committees that the city has? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to join us under citizen comment? Please.
Good evening, Rodney Boyd, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. As I told you folks the other night, I've been coming here about 50 years. I've spoken to any number of city councils. Most of the time, nobody agrees with me. I believe in fiscal restraint, which most people just don't understand that concept. I am amazed that people in this city took it upon themselves to make comments to one of our leaders. I don't understand where it comes from. I've stood here. I know personally people that voted against me over the years and things. And I realize they've got the best interest of the whole city. The whole city, not just one person or 2 people, but the whole city. And that's their responsibility. And we pay them an astronomical sum to do that. It probably pays their cleaning fee. I wish that some of these people that run their mouth like that would come down here and participate. We'd run them out of here in a heartbeat because they sound ridiculous. There is no need of that kind of language, hurtful comments, or whatever. And I've been disappointed any number of times. I've never took it upon myself to do something of that particular nature. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to join us under citizen comment? Oh, please, sir.
Thank you, Rick DiGiacomo, 8 Turnpike Park, Norwich. I'd like to thank you first for reconsidering the reallocation of funds to Hamilton Avenue to help improve that field. It's very beneficial to the safety of the play. Well, arrangements through Parks and Rec and through NFA and Norwich Tech are in the process of being made and have... I'm
Excuse me,
sorry.
sir? I'd be pleased to invite you back to speak on that item under the new business resolutions.
Okay,
But this is a moment where people speak about items not on the agenda.
my apologies.
But we look forward to your comments in a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else under citizen comment? Anyone else under citizen comment? Third time, anyone else under citizen comment general? Seeing none, thank you for your comments. Declare it closed. Thank you.
Petition and communication, letter of resignation from Lottie Scott from the Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
A motion, please, to accept the communications. Alderwoman Gould, second. Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Seeing none, let the record show that we accept the resignation with regret, and we give thanks to her for her service on this particular committee. All those in favor? It's unanimous. The vote is 7-0.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for May 20th, 2019. I attended the monthly Public Safety and CCM board meetings and also the Transportation Alternative Program, TAP, grant for 2021 presentations that were held at Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments. The Planning Department is hopeful for this grant opportunity for the project to improve sidewalks, ADA accessibility, and to provide almost 3 miles of bicycle facilities for the section of New London Turnpike from Norwich Town to Melrose Park Road. The mayor and I, along with Alderman Gould, Alderman Sam Browning, met with Superintendent Abby Dolliver and staff regarding their budget shortfall. I attended the Norwich Public Utilities and Connecticut Department of Public Health groundbreaking ceremony to mark the start of construction for an emergency interconnection water line that will serve the town of Sprague. This unique partnership will provide NPU with additional state resources while allowing the town of Sprague to avoid the cost of installing the water line on its own. Additional information regarding the $3.2 million regional project that will benefit both communities is on the NPU website. I also had the pleasure of attending the National League of Cities Risk Information Sharing Consortium Trustees Conference agenda. The featured speaker was Christine Holchowski, the mayor of Parkland, Florida. Her welcome, leading through crisis, being mayor at the time of the Parkland shooting, was extremely informative and moving. The city acknowledged Peace Officers Memorial Day on May 15th. Flags were flown at half-staff, and the Norwich Police wore black bands in memory of those officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Since the first known line-of-duty death in 1786, more than 21,000 U.S. law enforcement officers have made the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you to those that serve. The City Hall union contract was ratified and is in effect until June 30th, 2022, and the Public Works contract is in the final stage of ratification. Artwork that was received from the China Artists Association as a cultural exchange and act of appreciation to the city is now displayed on the 3rd floor in the main hallway. I invite you to take a look at the pieces currently on display. And that completes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Are there questions of the city manager? Okay, thank you. Just to add to that, This is a report that I'm giving from my office. This afternoon, we, people here in Norwich, we're represented by people from NPU, NCDC, myself. We gave a tour of the new commissioner of DECD for the state of Connecticut, Commissioner Lehman, and we gave him a guided tour on some of the investments and projects that are happening here in the city at this time. We took him to Panema Mills, the Hale Mill, the Hills. We showed him U.S. Foods, Freeport McMahon, and the marina as well. He is spending today and all of tomorrow touring Eastern Connecticut. He's from the other end of the state. He's been newly appointed, and he actually had not been to Eastern Connecticut, so he's spending 2 full days with us and learning about a number of communities here. I also, this afternoon, completed a tour of all our school facilities and elementary schools. I spent last week touring 8 elementary and middle schools and finished up today with our 2 preschool facilities. In each of the tours, I walked through the schools with the principals, met teachers, some students, and then I followed that up. There was a principals meeting this afternoon. I met with them again, the one to thank them for the hospitality, and also let them know that there will be 2 such tours scheduled going forward from now on while I am in office. The next one will be late in October. It's an effort on my personal part to become more acquainted with needs, the facilities, and everything that's going on, delving deeper, if you will. And it was eye-opening, and it was very encouraging. There are a lot of tremendous things happening in our schools, and I want to report that. Thank you.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
The first person signed up is Mr. Alex Gebbe.
Sit on the other side so they can see.
Good evening, Alex Gebbe, 122 Lakewood Road, South Glastonbury, West Ledge Apartments, LLC.
Darwin Gebbe, 27 York Road, Lebanon, Connecticut.
Just wanted to thank everybody for reviewing our package, our request for the tax assessment deferral for West Ledge Apartments. My father and I are the members of that LLC. We've also developed several projects here in Norwich, Harborview Estates, and our largest, the Hills at Riverview. And we're setting our sights on the former Peachtree apartment site that burned down. We've got a completely new design that's been approved, and it's a mix of all 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom apartments with sprinklers, luxury style units, and some very nice finishes.
The tax deferment is very necessary for us to complete this project because it's going to take about 5 years to build out 4 buildings. And the process of getting a structure built and occupied exceeds 2 years. And that period of time allows us, by having this tax deferment, to allow us to put in our equity into it so that we can speed up the process. Once a building is built, it's stabilized, and then we can move on to the next building. And it's a long process. It's a huge investment on our part, and similar to the Hills project, we've worked very closely with the city, and we appreciate the assistance, and it's a partnership. And I think the housing is very vital to the development of Norwich. And by working together, I believe this will be very successful in future development that may come to Norwich.
I believe you've all received the package of information. It kind of goes through some financials. I didn't want to get into that, but I think we've illustrated that every dollar of assessment that's deferred for the project, we're able to put right back into the ground and accelerate our development, which pushes us along and builds up the tax base faster.
The economic impact that I see,
Continue. You're both together. You're both signed up.
We get double.
so we get twice as much.
Well, 3 minutes each.
The tenants that we receive in our projects, they're high-end. They come from all over the world. We have many military and so forth, and their income levels are much higher than what we have for average incomes in the city. So the benefit is that these people who live here and enjoy the area are spending their extra disposable income on products and services within the Norwich area.
This request is for tax assessment deferral. There's no building permit fees in this request, and I just wanted to make note of that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the resolutions before us? I'm sorry. Oh, Mr. Crab?
No, Richard.
Oh. Oh. You'll be next.
I hope I don't steal his thunder, because I think we're going to say the same things. We couldn't have a better spokesperson than Rick to speak about the football field, so I welcome his comments too. But Leanne Gomes, Norwich Human Services and 39 Tanglewood Drive. I've had the opportunity to touch base with Cheryl. I was out for the last 10 days, but I did speak with her in length about this, and I was happy to see that this issue was brought back in front of you, because I know that if we rest that field for 1 year, the investment that we put in with the sprinkler system will pay off. And we have ensured that the kids have a different place to play during that 1 year that we take a break from that field. So we've spoken not only with Norwich Tech, who can accommodate some of the games there, but NFA will also allow us to play on Sundays on their turf field. So if we have to open up other fields and line other fields for the kids to play, we are committed to doing that, to make sure that for that 1 year that we rest that field, football goes on as usual. I think this is a great investment for the city. That field is a dust bowl down there, and we really need to do something to improve the conditions if we're going to continue to have football in our city. I think it's really worthwhile to do that. I know Cheryl has worked a lot with the maintainers of fields, the person that Rick has called in to help grow grass on that field, and everybody is in agreement that it would only take 1 year to rest that field in order to bring it back up to a really nice condition. So I hope that you're able to support this and give us the capital money that we need to complete this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Rick DiGiacomo, 8 Turnpike Park, I'm president of Norwich Youth Football. There's not much more I can say that Ms. Gomes hasn't said. Again, I'd like to thank you all for bringing this back up. It's very important for these children to have a safe place to play, and by improving the field, it reduces injury. The local schools around and the Parks and Rec have made arrangements for us to continue our season and keep, we have 260 kids down there on average between cheer and football that this directly affects. And we'd like to see this program continue to strive, and with your help, our field can be someplace they can be proud of. We've made Super Bowls over the past 3 years. We had an undefeated season last year for one of our teams, and we'd like to have a place that they could be proud of to call home. So again, I thank you for bringing this back up, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to join us on the citizen comment on the agenda resolutions? Yes, sir.
Rodney Boyd, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. Many of you know that I'm a landlord here in the city of Norwich. And quite frankly, in the last 50 years, I've never gotten a deferral on my taxes for anything. I don't care if I was putting roofs on, heating systems, or anything else in these places. Now, talk about affordable houses and stuff. I think Panema Mills cost $460,000 a unit. We paid for that. If you've got 2 and 3 bedroom units put into an apartment house, I guarantee you there's going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4 children come out of each one of those things. They will never pay the tax on what it would cost to send these kids there to Board of Education. So I know it's a raw hooray thing, building new housing, affordable housing. I'd like to know what people think affordable housing actually is. I have some apartments that go for $600. That's what I call affordable housing, not $1,200 a month or something of that nature. So, midget football field. There's been enough talk on it. I've talked with Bill. I've talked with this fellow over here. I was on the board 35 years ago. And I don't think they need an irrigation system, but they can use some help. So I'd say vote for it. I think Bill's going to keep a pretty decent eye on where this money is spent and how it's doled out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else under citizen comment resolutions? Anyone else under citizen comment resolutions? Anyone else under citizen comment on the resolutions on the agenda? Seeing none, that's 3 times, and we thank you for your comments and sharing your thoughts and concerns and declare it closed. I'd ask for a motion for executive session, please. Alderwoman Gould.
I hereby move pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-200 subsection 6 that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment, performance, and evaluation of City Manager John Salamone, who will attend this session and does not require that these discussions be held in an open meeting. Director of Human Resources Bridget Marks. Comptroller Josh Pothier will be asked to attend all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council. I further move that the council shall thereafter continue in executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 1-200 for the purpose of discussing strategies and negotiations with respect to collective bargaining. The following shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council. City Manager John Salamone, Director of Human Resources Bridget Marks, Comptroller Josh Pothier, and Corporate Counsel Michael Driscoll.
Is there a second, please? Pro Tem Nash. All those in favor, motion for executive session. It's unanimous. 319, please.